for being here. We are the master's students from the Masters of Computer and Technology. This is our house presentation, which means that we're halfway through the project. And we would like especially to thank our client for being here. So my name is Maradin Rizzi. I'm the producer and project designer.
Creative director.
I'm Orçun. I'm the technical lead.
So just briefly going through our agenda. So first we will review who's our clients, then our scope in our project. Give a brief overview of the progress so far. Then we will present our concept, explain what's next to do, and then we will get your feedback. So I would like to ask, who likes to travel? So I see that there's a lot of people who like to travel. And who likes to eat? Well done, a lot of them. So, from these people, have you ever thought of traveling to the Nile River and enjoying some really baba ganoush thing that's local from the place? No? Maybe this is too exotic. What about going to the Tiger River in Bangladesh, this city very far away, trying this magoo fish that we don't know what it is? So these are experiences that we maybe never thought of, right? So this is what our client wants to give to you. Because sometimes people either don't have the money, or don't like flying, or don't have the time to travel to these locations. So our client, the Eat and Travel restaurant, they want to explore the world with unique visits and unlock a wonderful tasting experience, and give us the opportunity to learn the culture of wonderful places. So now you maybe are wondering, how are they going to do that? So they want to allow us to go to their restaurant, and it's a restaurant where you have a very immersive environment, as you can see from here, that gives you the feeling that you are actually traveling and you are in a cruise ship looking at real sightseeing. So this is the framing of the client. So when the client approaches, they want us, they suggest us, so the red one is the MET part, to work on the menu and on the interactive part. They will take care of doing the immersion of the space. And also our role would be not as significant in the experience design. So we got all this input, we had a lot of stuff to work with. But in the end, we decided to focus on the learning experience that the client wants to give about the culture of that location. So we went into research. We went to restaurants, we went to themed restaurants, we did secondary research, and then we started coming up with concepts. So we kind of explored different spaces. So we thought, oh, why not use a tabletop projection where you could actually see your food and you could interact with the table? Or use a touch screen as a table. Or why not have a game in the waiting area that teaches you about the culture of that country? Or even, you could, while you're entering and waiting in the restaurant, you could take a picture of that location using the green screen. We also thought, why not use augmented reality to show people how does the food actually looks like before they are ordering? Or even more crazy, do a live play at the restaurant that could impersonate something from that culture. And then we got the feedback from the client, and we went into more brainstorming sessions. And we kind of saw that there was something missing. The experience wasn't being a whole. There was this learning component, there was this traveling component, and there was the restaurant component. But there was something in the middle making the connections. So we thought, okay, so this is a restaurant and it's a cruise ship. Let's think about cruise ships. What happens in the cruise ship? Who's the main character in the cruise ship?
It's the captain, right? So we came up with our final concept. That is Captain Jack Jones and his journal. So Captain Jack Jones is a very experienced man. He has traveled around the world many times. And he decided to start his own cruise ship line, and he wants to join with the restaurant. So, like any good man of the sea, he doesn't like to stay more than 1 month in the same place. So he decided that in every month he's going to take you to a different place. He doesn't want to take you to, he wants to take you to known places, but he also wants to take you to unknown places that you were never dreamed of going. So he has this journal where he wrote these amazing stories that people told him, and he also wrote stories that of things that has happened to him as well. He shares, but he's like no ordinary captain. He shares this passion for food as he has for traveling. So in these different places, he has collected a lot of different recipes, and he has kept them in his journal. So how is the captain going to interact with you when you arrive at the restaurant? He's going to give you a warm welcome, where he's going to summarize you the trip. He's going to share stories with you, and he's going to share his experience and his passion for food, where he's going to present you the food from that country. He will also want people to have some fun while they are at the restaurant, and he will send you a postcard at the end where he's going to want to keep in touch, and he wants to invite you for the next month's trip.
Yeah, and the next thing I will discuss about the captain's journal, because it's an essential part of our work. So the journal, as Duar said, is partially about the captain's traveling log, and also it's a part of the place where he collects a lot of recipes. And yeah, we are going to the detail of it, and we need your feedback in this part. So what's in the journal? So in the journal, there's a part where the captain talked about where he has been to, and there's a map over there, and you can know more information, more detailed information about the place. Also, you can see his recipes, and you can order from it. Like you can have appetizer, main dish, drink, dessert, and also like any other menu, you can order and managing your order. So when the customer get into a restaurant, they will get the journal, which the back of the journal look like this. So you can see part of it is English, a part of it is Portuguese. So just choose the one you can understand and flip it over. In this case, in English. Now we come to the point where we need some of your feedback, where we have option 1. After you flip the journal over, the first thing is the menu, and how you get to the traveling part is through the bookmark there, where you just click and you will get to the bookmark. It will get to the traveling part. And another option is while you flip the book over, the content is something you can read and something that is upside down. The something you can read is either menu or traveling. So how you're going to read it, it's easy. Just turn it over, and it will be readable. And then you can go and you can open it to see what's in there. Let's take a look. So if you open it and get into the traveling part, you can see the menu. You can see the map here, where we have some icons on the map along the river, and you can click on it, or you navigate through the bookmark here, and to learn more detailed information about the place. So you will see the picture, and you will read the text, watch the video, and what if you want to order? What you are going to do? So it's easy, just like how you get here. Flip it over, turn it around, and we'll get you to the menu part. You open the menu, the first thing you see is the recommendation from the captain. You can see what's the fresh food today and what you can get. So what if you want to see what kind of other options you have? Then you will have the bookmark here, where you click on it and you can go to other view to see the appetizer or the main dish. So now we run into another designing options we have. So this is option 1, where you go into choose main dish or appetizer, where we categorize the food in a rows of thumbnails, and you just need to scroll to see the picture of the food, and of course you can order from it. Or another case, we list all our food, list all the name of food on the left side, and if you click on one of it, we will show the picture here and the ingredient and the story behind it. And of course, we will provide a tab, so where you can select different category of the food easily from there. So the third option is without thumbnails, without menu items. We directly show them the image and the story and the recipe behind the food. So they just need to go to next page, and then they can go through everything, every kind of food. And when they want to add the food, they will just need to add, and it will be added into their wish list. And wish list is also in the bookmark that is also have in the other option 1 and option 2 wish list. So you can open the wish list, and we will organize whatever the client has ordered into different sections like appetizer, main dish, drinks, and dessert. And they can place the order separately. So that means while they're choosing the main dish, they can have their drinks and the appetizer ready there. So after they enjoy the meal, so they probably need to pay. Here they can press the pay bill button where they can see as the table what they have ordered. And you and your friends want to share the bill. So we provide a space where you can drag whatever you eat into your own section, and we will sum up the price that each customer needs to pay. And here, yes, that's our concept of the journal.
We would like your feedback on how to make this travel journal. To keep the metaphor of a travel journal that is also a menu, and how could we do this? So just to wrap up, next we will analyze feedback from today, do refinements, and then start developing full speed, and then do some user testing. So yeah, we would like your questions and feedback.
Is this for a physical restaurant or a food website?
Yes.
So this is a physical restaurant where I will actually have food.
Yes.
So I'm assuming there are no waiters taking orders. There are only food deliverers, and this is the complete interface between the restaurant as opposed to a guy delivering the food.
There will be a waiter still, but we want the customer to still have this option of. I mean, if you're not comfortable with using any kind of technology, there will still be a person there to help you, right? But we want to kind of like release the pressure of being a waiter so that they can be more, they can take care better of their customers with just asking, oh, how are you, or other stuff, rather than just going.
Because the theme of the restaurant will change every month, and if you are going to change to train all the waiters new information about new place, this is kind of hard or incredible.
Well, because this is part, because if there are waiters, people expect a certain level of service from them, rather than being dumped an iPad. But if this is made explicit, there are some places even without, I've been to a place in Copenhagen where you were given a board and said, nobody will talk to you. Please mark your selections on this form, hang it up, they will pick it up, they will cook it for you, they will bring it for you, that's it. That's part of their service design, service methodology. If you understand this and if you're willing to put up with it or accept it, then it works beautifully, and it actually is useful for cutting costs and for hello, they actually have a little bell where you can ping and get another form if you want something else. So if you build this into the actual service design of this restaurant, that could actually work. And okay, there will be people who may not like this establishment, but this is part of the design. How do you save costs on refurbishing the restaurant, retraining the staff, restocking? That also should go into, because you have recipes, but recipes seem odd because I'm not going to cook my own food. But I mean, method of preparation, because you have kusamachi, I mean, actually, you have a picture of kusamachi, but the samachi is touching, and most people would have no clue. So giving them a complete recipe for kusamachi is actually completely useless, because they're not going to cook it, but actually explaining to them that kusamachi is actually stuffed zucchini in Arabic, and that it's, okay, it's a zucchini stuffed with meat and rice. So some general abstracted mode of preparation would pique an interest in something.
Yeah, actually the ingredients here is a little bit, ingredient or recipe here is a little bit misunderstanding. Yeah, it's supposed to be like other like information that usually people would want to know in the restaurant.
Yeah, so one of the things that I would suggest to you is that you remember this is not a desktop application. And so the terms you use and the interaction metaphors should be driven from the restaurant experience of typical restaurant goers rather than our concept as technology people of how to think of these. So wish list makes no sense.
Yes.
Ad is in a sense an information technology term. It's a concept that we have. It's not, nobody going to restaurants says, I'd like to add this to my wish list. Okay? So, I'm not saying what words to choose, but I think that has to be your guiding philosophy, which, as you know, Palan, in my class, it's outside-in design as opposed to inside-out design. So it should be closer to the traditional restaurant experience, even if there isn't a waiter. And you could even imagine something as silly as, my name is Jack Jones. I'm your host tonight. Please look through my menu and tell me what you'd like.
I think playing off that is like with the idea of this is in reality a menu, right? A digital menu or using technology to enhance the menu experience. And I feel that flipping concept with just suddenly switch it, you're toggling between some sort of menu to a travel guide. I think that one's a little bit risky or a little bit dangerous in a way. It's like you're pushing it beyond what that expectation on the menu is. I think you could utilize, try to stick towards what a typical like menu metaphor is and enhance that experience using technology, but not trying to define a whole new, I guess.
Yeah, to answer your question, I don't know if you have ever tried to write two different notes, like two different contents of notes on the same notebook. Mm-hmm. There are different ways to do it, and there's a way you can accommodate them. And I'm not saying this is the right way to do it, but we think it might be interesting.
So this follows up with on his comment. You want to be careful about mixing metaphors and interaction techniques. So, for example, one argument against the horizontal scrolling pictures, aside from the cultural thing, that there are some cultures that pick by pictures, but most don't, is all of a sudden now you have to the user has to figure out the flick gesture, or whereas otherwise they're just touching to go to something or see something. So you want to keep the interaction techniques as simple as possible, but you also want the whole thing to be instructive interaction, single trial learning. I'm going to take the opposite position and say I think that your user testing, I predict, with the flipped text will work perfectly. For the simple reason that the absolute intuitive thing that anybody who's handed something that's upside down is to turn it the other way around. And if you have a position sensor, it's...
I think too, if your device actually says menu, and then on the other side it says law, Right? If it's always like the device is something that's written on the plastic surface. That's it's always going to be me this side, it's always going to be wrong this side.
I have a concern about that. I don't know how it would play out. But if I'm reading like this, and I have someone in front of me, and I want to show him what I'm seeing right now, and I do this,
We'd
so
never do
it's
that.
the same as speaking. So, won't the screen rotate?
Yes.
When I do this?
Well, I guess yes.
Good.
But think about
Yeah,
it. If you're
I see
reading,
it and it's upside down and I can.
if you're reading a book like this and you want to show me, would you show me like this? Because if I read it, it's upside down. So what you do is do this, right?
Just test it.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, with tablets, if you know that it rotates,
We can
you
maybe,
Yes.
may have the instinct to give it because you know to just test it.
yeah, that's not good.
It's
That's
a-
something we can take into consideration. Okay, we'll go.
Okay, so to say something about the instinct of flipping your tablet, I think it's interesting that you're telling them it's the metaphor for book, but ultimately they recognize it as a tablet because that's what it is. So I think you have to be careful, like even though it's a metaphor and you think people might interact using that metaphor, I think you have to be careful about what you actually assume.
Yeah, so I have a couple thoughts. First, I think the recipes is interesting, but what's the takeaway there? Because that's difficult to take with them. So maybe you could, like, there could be a service where you select it and it automatically gets printed out and delivered to you when you leave. The other thing is, so I like the whole concept of the captain. I think that's really strong. But is he a cook or a chef, or like, why is he collecting these recipes?
Has a passion for food.
Yeah, but in that same concept, like thinking about like, I think, are you his guest on the cruise? So maybe he's like thinking about your specific relationship to him, because I think like, welcome, I'm your host, Captain Jack Jones, is very impersonal, or you could make it more personal, and it could have a very different experience.
More or less some comments I made to the other group, talking to the group about since the last week, massively. And I think this is why it's needed, because we need to sometimes get shaken. And finally, can you go back several slides where we show actually a picture of the restaurant? Of the potential restaurant.
That's a nice question.
That's a nice restaurant also.
It's, yeah, you have a picture of the inside of the restaurant. There.
Yes. So where did you get this from?
Our comments.
When?
In the beginning. We've been showing this image in every presentation. Yes.
And there is something I'm missing. To me, it was the first time I was seeing it. And this image makes things making much more sense. I really get interesting. So another comment here is that if you take this picture, and I'm always, I know that storyboarding is hard and time consuming, but again, to give general feedback that can also be useful for your colleagues, not necessarily just for you, because I like the presentation and it made much more sense, and I have some specific comments, is that if you start from here, you already put me in a different context, which is my fault, probably I was just starting to initiate this picture before. And if you, from here, you take a story board, meaning that you make me go through this, I start to understand much better your concept. Rather than you just show me the low-level interaction design of, I'm less guided into what this experience could be about. because this made me understand very clearly, and probably I was not here, I remember I was not here when we made the last presentation, this is why I don't remember seeing this speech. But if you do a storyboard, even though I know that you are under a very hard and strict schedule, although you have much more time in this semester of PhD, always, it's well worth because it will make things more clear, it will give more consistent feedback, and you will bump into some details that are going to be good to do afterwards. So even after this presentation, I was suggesting you try to storyboard this, to see how certain elements that you talked about, we can discuss this thing, but I'm more worried at this stage of how this topic will work within this larger context. Before I go into this detail, should I rotate or not? Which I think also is a nice idea, like Larry said, it seems to work, but before going there, I would like to see how this is going to work within the context of a restaurant that is now to me more clear as a team restaurant that will not changes it. It's kind of mimicking a cruise ship. I don't know if I will ever go into a restaurant like this, but I'm sure there are a lot of people that would like to go through this experience. The other thing is the same feedback I gave to your colleagues. We don't have a lot of time, so instead of trying to do too much, try to focus on making it very well done. Iterate a lot so that you get it right. You get it professionally and right. Don't try to do too much because you will not be able to do it. And we already had this discussion. I like the idea I see potential in the idea of the chef, kind of avatar chef captain. But there is a lot of work to be done to really make this menu polished, professional level thing that works in a restaurant. So sometimes I'm not saying you have to make this choice right now, but you need to consider if you want time to do it well. Because doing two things bad is much worse than doing one thing well done. So, and this will take a lot of iterations because as you've seen from the comments, we have a lot of preconceived ideas of what a restaurant should be, what we want from the experience in a restaurant like this, and these things will get thrown in all of the testing that we do. But I think we made a lot of progress this last year.
I want to toss one more thing in, which has to do with, I assume you've talked with your clients about what they see the target demographic is. Maybe not in depth, but first...
Yes, we don't have an answer for that. Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that I teach is where you generate models in order to test them out. So I look at this and I hear about this concept, and I can tell you this is not targeted at students. Okay, you are not the users. You don't have enough money. You don't have enough time. You're not old enough. And so whatever the target is, it's not you. And you need to keep underscoring that for yourselves. It's probably closer to people my age, I hate to say. Because younger people would go there rather than spend gobs and gobs of money for an immersive fake experience. You see? So the target is very important, and it'll affect details of your interaction design, including. I would say that most of the people who would go to this restaurant have never actually held a tablet before. They're not like us. Okay.
Unless you target the pensioner engineers.
Yeah, there you go.
Back to the menu design. I understand now you actually have two books stick back to back. Have you thought about actually a single book? You can only keep one journal.
It's
you
actually
everything.
So
the story and the menu items you can order actually intertwine in a single streamline rather than actually still two books.
Put in another tab there that says coming or something.
No, to make it more.
it's a storyline.
Some part of it is traveling, some part of it is...
See, for example, you have the map,
Yes, right. And you actually have the menu items showing along the map.
Yes.
So the stacks are from cars living in this region, wine from this region. And so you reach through the journey and make your choices along the way.
We thought about it before, like putting stories and the menus together, but we were afraid that people cannot navigate through, like think quickly, like what if they want steak, but they have to go through a lot of stories and to find the thing they want.
We were thinking like, okay, even though it's like you know when you should order your appetizers, you know when you should order your main dish. Sometimes it's not that linear. You may want to drink in the end. Like we were struggling with that.
That's the challenge.
Yes.
This to me back to back is an easy solution to the integration. Actually, we don't actually integrate that much. I would love to see you have a solution that actually combine back in a single group. I'm not saying you have to take this interaction away, but see the way that make it, because this is still the same menu you expect to see. It's not that much innovation.
Yeah, I think another thing that you guys might want to consider is like the food culture. You know, like you were talking about people, there's different orders for when you order what, and like how that, thinking about how that works with the like interface, but also specifically with the food items, like what's like when culturally would they consume it, and why are the ingredients, like why do they use those ingredients? What's not only the history, but like maybe when did the captain experience, like that could be part of the story about the food. It's like, you know, something more culturally significant.
So you're saying the destination, would that be the destination's culture? So
Yeah.
not the food is.
But there's another issue here. If we're talking about user experience, is on one hand you have the menu, and the menu you order your food, and then you start eating it. And yes, you may have some midpoints in which you want to order an extra dish or more drinks or something like that. Then there's the actual experience of the meal, which is in itself important. And the logbook to me seems a bit odd because the captain's logbook records events of the trip. And this is a restaurant experiences of passengers. So if you have a person, let's say, instead of captain, it's the same concept, but a personal album or log in which you actually look at the elements. So if I want to have, I've ordered and now we're talking and we're waiting for the food and the dish arrived. So one element is I can look and get some of that ingredient information, or while we're eating it, some people actually take a photo of their food. Why not use that iPad or whatever to actually facilitate that? We take a photo of my companion while she's dipping baba ganoush or whatever, because that's part of the record. And then all of and that can easily flip like, oh, we ran out of pita bread. Okay, flick menu, order, or I need some more lemonade, flick, order, and then you have these things, and figuring out at what point is this relevant. Like in the menu, you can have the baba ganoush and just description, eggplant. Actually saw it in Zurich airport called eggplant caviar, which took me half an hour to figure out what they're talking about, because I was sure there was some caviar in there to begin with. But then, and later on, you're more concerned on preparation. This is eaten in the whole Middle East or whatever, and that would be no space for it in the menu, but important while you wait or while you eat. And those things can be and as opposed to add a wish list, you can add things like, okay, upload this to my Facebook so I can create an online, because this is all doable, and this is things that people are currently doing, so supporting that.
We thought about that, like integrating the social network into this.
And these things are actually easier to do than properly implementing a chef or captain avatar, because that's a lot of cinematography. To do that well takes an incredible amount of time, but to do actually a menu in a journal well, which is primarily information architecture and information design, again hard, but and these are complementary. Your avatar chef intro is not complementary to this, it's an additional task on top of everything else.
Going back to Nunu's point, do one thing well.
Yeah, so rather than simplifying this, get rid of the guy or having it just splash screen and focus your element on these and work on things that you can do. This is neat. It just needs to be thought of as an experience, not as a taking a card and then digitize it.
And then sort of drawing on everyone else that creating that avatar would be easier when you have the target. Creating that avatar would be easier. The character and how he relates to the consumers will be easier when you have the target group.
We discussed this before. People are mentioning avatar. I saw a real picture. We are speaking with a real person. Yes.